Hello, everybody. This is the one and only Mr. LP Steven Sykes of Enliven Radio, and I have a very honored and treasured guest here, former Congressman Mr. Virgil Goode. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fine, Steve. Glad to be with you.
Thank you very much, sir. How are you enjoying your days these days? What you been up to?
Well, I haven't been as active politically. I still write an article or two every now and then do a little law work, but not much.
I understand. Now, I have a couple of questions that has always been on my mind and things. Like, how is a gentleman like you over the years, and by nature of the position as a politician, you stay busy, but you've been more active than most. And what do you do to keep up the energy that you do? Do you work out? Do you lift weights? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I do some. I go to the Y and do some exercises and do a little running.
Awesome. Now, one of the things that has always interested me is that from when you started your career and things, you've been involved with the Democrat Party, the Republican. You've been independent, and now most recently you have been in the Constitution Party. What were some of the, we all know the political reasons and things like that, but what was it for you? I don't think anybody ever took the time out to ask, how are you doing with it? Like, what was it, how did it take upon you personally?
Well, really, I didn't change my views. My views were back the same, starting off in the state senate back in the early 70s, and stayed the same really up in Congress. I may have changed on a few things, but not very many. The Democratic Party in Virginia shifted more over time, and it became more like the National Democratic Party and not interested in balancing the budget like it is in Virginia. And the Constitution Party, a big issue now that wasn't around, but it was around a little bit even in the legislative days, where the Constitution Party had a little better view on stopping illegal immigration and reducing legal immigration than the Republicans. Some of the Republicans are real good on it. The Democrats are awful. You're never going to solve the job situation in this country as you keep bringing in more foreign workers, legal and illegal. And persons saying, well, I'm not making enough money nowadays because you're just letting in more people that's going to drive down the wage rate. And you got the big money in the Republican Party. They want open borders, let everybody come in, so you don't have to pay anybody anything much.
Yes, and as a gentleman that's been in the IT field, it's been hard because either my job's been outsourced, or when a lot of people come to work, now they want to pay. They're willing to pay less, and I get mad because I'm like, okay, if you're gonna come take the job, get the money that you are supposed to get. Don't just say, okay, I'll take the job for $10 when the job's supposed to pay $38. And you're hurting the field.
Yeah, during the debate in Chicago in 2012, I met several persons in the IT field, and the big guys out in the Silicon Valley, they're interested in making as much money as they can, but paying people as little as possible. And they want more H-1B visas people in here. It's really a sad day for the Americans. I know in Southside Virginia, they wouldn't. We've got persons, high unemployment, but persons could do those jobs with training, and they spend billions on training, but not on the type that's needed for those persons, but they won't. They just want to bring them in from foreign countries because it's just like you say. When you were getting, I think you used to figure $38 an hour. They can bring the U.S. person was used to making that an hour, but they can bring them in from India or China and pay them $10 an hour. It's open borders immigration policy that's killing us. You're never going to have good, strong employment for American citizens as long as they have and the sad thing is you got Democrats wanting open borders, and then you got a lot of the big money people behind the Republicans. It scares them deaf. I know. It was interesting to watch Newt Gingrich. He shift on immigration. He had that angel Sheldon Adelson for him out in Nevada, and he was pouring in millions to his presidential bid, and he shifted on immigration because Adelson wants low-wage people in here to work in his gambling casinos and whatever else he does.
Now, let me ask you this, and that brings up two questions. Would you have a problem, I agree with you for starters, but would you have a problem if we were allowed more to go overseas to work and things like that? Because it seems like we're allowed to come here, but the trade-off is not equal on the other side.
I'd have to see that situation specifically. I don't think the problem is most overseas places aren't as good as here.
No.
I know, and they don't allow foreigners to work. My daughter was overseas in a foreign country, and very enlightened country, and you couldn't get a job. They preserve jobs for their own citizens first, and that's what we should be doing, and that's what we're not doing.
Right. See, and that's what it was. Like, I was in Poland, I've been in Germany, I've been in China, I've been in Japan. There was a lot of things. There was nothing against me. They were just like, we just want to make sure our crew had jobs. So I could understand that.
Right. And that's the way we should be in this country, but we're not. It's just a lot of the really rich are all focused on the biggest margin, and that's you bring in people from other countries and pay them low wages, and they'll work here. And in the IT area that you mentioned, I think it's especially bad. And I see those guys with and the gals too with the IT, and they say, well, we've got to have more qualified workers in here. There are qualified people in this country, but the bottom line is qualified means I got to pay them a lot less. That's what I want to do, and let me bring those people in from, like I said, India, the Far East, any of the foreign countries, and we can get them over here and pay them a lot less. That means we'll make more money, and our stock will go higher on the New York and NASDAQ, and that's exactly what it is. They want to drive the stock prices up, and the way you do that is lay off people or have more people paying them less.
Well, the other thing I have a problem with now, sir, is like with a lot of the foreign, like now I have a lot of people in India that call here for a job in somewhere else, somewhere across the country. They'll say, oh, I want you to go to Boise, Idaho. But to apply the job, you have to give them your Social Security or your birthday or the last four. And you don't know these people, but then they won't accept the job. They won't take the application without it. And so you don't get anything with the company. It's like all these different parts are interchangeable. And you go through them, through another recruiter, through somebody else before you get to the company. So you're not getting an actual chance. Somebody else gets your information. And it's hard, and then it's like you go to Sprint or HP. Outside of the government, it used to be with the government, I could understand, but now with everybody else, it's like, okay, now you got to give up all this information. I don't think it's right. I really don't.
Yeah, and I don't know all the details on what all you have to furnish to them, but with identity theft in this country, an American is going to be less likely to give them a number than somebody overseas or somebody that just got here. Exactly. Some of them don't even have Social Security numbers yet. Exactly. They might have a taxpayer ID number. I know you can get that first.
What to do with the people that's already here, that's working visas and things like that? And let's say somebody who's actually from another country, but they would have no problem being a productive citizen. Like, they couldn't get a job in their own home country, so they came here, and not necessarily about where I'm from or the U.S. or whatever country. They're not even caring about a country. They just want a better life for themselves and or their families. What to do? What do we say to them? That's like, I'm from.
All right. My position on that is no. We've got to look out for the American citizen. For what's happening is we're not placing the U.S. citizen for those persons in other countries that want a better life for them. Everybody in the world wants that, and I commend them for wanting that. But don't come over here and take jobs from people. We are driving down the middle class in this country, and it won't. And what's happening is the wrong trajectory for the United States. The whole world would be better off if the United States has a strong middle class and a strong country that's looking out for its citizens first. And so even though you're right that a lot of the persons that come here, good motive, they simply want to make money and do better. But we need to look out for our citizens first. They have paid taxes over years. They've paid into Social Security. We let too many asylees and refugees in. These are legal people, and people say, well, they've got a bad life in their country. We got to let them in. They're probably scared. But most of the asylees and refugees, including the 2 bombers up there at the Boston Marathon, they are persons, a lot of them, get various government benefits such as food stamps, educational assistance, housing, and Medicaid, and the longtime taxpayers and citizens of this country are the ones footing the bill. We need to take care of the longtime citizens first and people that are U.S. citizens instead of worrying about bringing in so many foreign workers and just having an open borders. And a lot of the foreign workers, especially from Central America, a lot of them are illegal. They're not supposed to be here anyway. But I hear employers saying, "Well, I gotta give them a job because they'll work harder." I submit to them after they've been here a while, they'll want every benefit that anyone else gets, and as soon as they get to be legal, the attitude changes.
That's I've seen that happen. What do you say? And as a side, I understand you're a very good poker player.
No, I don't play poker at all. Never played poker.
Okay, because someone told me that you were voting for online poker at one point.
No, Okay, I'm not a poker. But now there were some in Congress that were big poker players. They and in a General Assembly too. They'd have games at night, and some people would be groggy the next day for playing too long. But I never was a poker player. I tried it a few times, like in college, and it was a way for me to lose money, so I quit.
Now I have a question.
I'm not a poker player. In fact, I don't know that much about it.
All right. I have a question for you. Now, recently you ran for presidency. How come you never ran for presidency sooner? I would have voted for you.
Well, I appreciate that. The opportunity wasn't there, but that wasn't the main thing. The main thing was I thought somebody needed to voice the opinions like I've been discussing now, particularly against illegal immigration, too much legal immigration, and I was strong pro-gun and had a long, good record on that. In the General Assembly, I sponsored the concealed carry legislation, sponsored several measures in Washington, had a consistent pro-life record, and in one that wanted to be economical in government. There's a lot of waste, I think, in the Congress. Much less waste in Richmond. They balanced the budget, and that was the environment that I was in down there. I was in the state senate 23 years, and you had to get your budget balanced. You just couldn't keep throwing money at it. The Washington philosophy was too much. Just keep throwing money at it, and I think that's the philosophy that we need in the White House.
What would you say is the problem we need to do to fix the schools and in terms of paying and the school fix? And I ask this because of a couple of reasons. Here in Richmond and throughout a couple of areas, we had the Virginia lottery. Now, I remember when I first came here, it was a big deal about letting the lottery in or some of the big games or the alcohol wasn't sold on Sundays, all these things that were quote unquote supposed to go to the schools. But to this day, kids still do not have books. And outside of Richmond, the Tidewater area in Northern Virginia, the schools, I look at some of the schools in Fairfax County or Loudoun County, the schools look like mini colleges. And then the school I went to Laurel Park High School in Martinsville. We nowhere near had the equipment. We had good quality education, don't get me wrong, but we had nowhere near the equipment, and I would love to have had the same opportunities that they have. And I understand that there were more businesses and more things and more money and thus more could go in there. But the money for the state always kept going to that area that was quote-unquote performing. But if we had the money, more schools could perform better if we would have the same supplies and push. So it's like, why keep feeding the money to the richer, the richer, the richer, when that money is supposed to be spread out evenly?
In Virginia, the disparity among the school system, but I'd have to say it's mainly because of Northern Virginia has so many federal workers that get such good salaries, and in some other areas of the state, and the rural areas like Henry County, which you mentioned, Laurel Park, and I'm next door in Franklin County. But now I'm not, and I would like to see more uniform pay, but I'm not for a federalized education system. And that would mean that there would be differences between the state. In fact, I think the federal encroachment on education has hurt education. I know the No Child Behind Act, which George Bush really touted, I voted against it. It was it sends, most of the federal laws send a lot of regulation, but very little money to the states, and I think education should be at the state and local level.
I felt that No Child
the federal government. The federal government has a big department, but you spend so much on bureaucracy that you just don't. In my view, I don't even think you need a federal Department of Education.
Well, the thing about the thing about it is, I see that No Child Left Behind Act, and I never thought it worked. I understand the principle, but it was never funded. And thus, if the No Child Left Behind actually worked, then my principle of having money all around for all the schools would have worked. But that never happened.
No, and the federal government is $17 trillion in debt. And the best thing they could do is retract or retrench from trying to control secondary education in the United States. It is a huge expenditure of money, and every president likes to say they've got some kind of education program. They throw a little money at it, but the duties of the federal government is national defense and taking care of citizens in a general way, but they can't manage the education system. That's better done at the local level and at the state level. The federal bureaucracy, the guy that's Arnie Duncan, I don't know, I forgot. I believe he's from Chicago. What's good in a Chicago school is not necessarily going to be good in a Henry County school or Franklin County school.
Right.
And you setting up the bureaucracy and everything is just a huge cost of money. Your local school systems, they will have every program they've got. At one time, when I was there, the superintendent from Pennsylvania said there were 700 and some federal education programs. He had them all outlined. Now, I looked at them, that was 15 years ago. I don't remember every one of them, but all of them require bureaucracy and people to administer those programs. And what they all should do is get everybody in the administration in Franklin County school system, Henry County school system, Richmond school system is dealing with the federal government. They should take that money and be paying classroom teachers, the ones that's delivering the jobs, the goods, instead of having to have. And it's not the state and the local fault so much. They set up these programs, and you have to participate in them. But No Child Left Behind is a good example of a lot of fluff that, and I have to say, a bunch of Republicans voted for that, and they wanted to say they did a great thing for schools. We're doing this and we're doing that, but it was a lot of money, a goodly amount of money spent that didn't do anything. The best thing they could have done is said, we're not going to force you to hire several people in administration to handle No Child Left Behind. We're going to leave you alone, and you won't be burdened with the rules and regulations, and that'd been the best thing he could have done.
Well, let me ask you this: what's to prevent somebody in middle Iowa having to be good enough math to survive versus somebody who's in the middle of Fairfax County? Algebra 2 out there is not the same as it is in Algebra 2 in Fairfax County.
Well, Fairfax County is, they have some, like I said, they've got so many federal workers up there that they are one of the richest counties in the country.
Yeah, but okay, we could use
the Virginia does have a school distribution formula of the sales tax and the income tax in the state based on ability to pay. Now, I of course haven't been in the General Assembly for about 17 years now, but they had a formula based on local effort. That means what your real estate, personal property taxes were, and then the average income in that locality. And so Virginia did have and still does have that, an education formula based at least to some degree on the ability to pay. So Henry County, based on average daily membership, in Franklin County, get more money from the state than Fairfax. When I was asked, thinking it was like Fairfax, if a student got, if you did it on $1,000 per student, Franklin County would get about 63 cents, and Fairfax would get about 20 cents.
That's true. That's true.
Out of $1. So they do that. I'm not. I haven't kept up with it in recent years, but they should. I was in favor of distribution of school funds, with a large component being on the ability of a locality to pay. Because, as you know, the average wage in Henry County is far less than the average wage in Henrico County, or far less far, far less than the average wage in Fairfax County.
What would you say now, in your opinion? Let me ask you a straight up question. Do you think we should just get rid of the political parties altogether?
Do I think what now?
We should get rid of just political parties altogether?
No, maybe it shouldn't be as difficult for third parties to get ballot access, but that's mainly a state issue. It varies in the state. Some states it's a lot easier to get on the ballot and gain party status than it is in other states. I know Ron Paul, who's certainly not a big proponent of having the federal government decide everything. He wanted to have some federal rules on it, but I don't know that I don't agree with that. I think it should be a state issue. It's up to each state. I know in North Carolina, for example, it is really difficult for a third party to have get on the ballot. They've got I think it's about 80,000 signatures, and then because some people signed and aren't eligible to vote, you probably need to get 130,000, 140,000 people to sign just to get on the ballot. We tried it in 2012, and they have a write-in ballot where you can get on if you get 500 signatures. In Virginia, it was 10,000 signatures, and we got over 20 just to have a cushion. And then, of course, the Republicans were trying to keep me off. They spent probably $1 million to try to keep me off the ballot in Virginia. They spent a lot of money. I think they'd have been better off spending that money sharpening up Romney on his positions and getting him more knowledge than he had on federal issues.
What would you say? What would you say is the next goal for the Republican and the just all the parties? What would you think is the best way goal or the next step for each party to get ahead?
Well, I think they need to focus on issues that are important to American citizens. And like we've been discussing, it's an opportunity for U.S. citizens to get a good job and not, again, I go back to the immigration issue. You can't keep bringing so many people in, legally and illegally, from other countries and letting them continually drive down wages. All you're going to end up with in this country is a lot of persons not making very much and a few really rich, getting rich off the system. And the really rich had better wake up, because you could have unrest in this country and take the money away from them.
Well, we won't take your money because I know you give a lot, so I appreciate it. You know, you being a multi-billionaire that you are.
That's not so. That is certainly not so. If I'd have been a billionaire, I'd have won the election. Because Ross Perot almost won in 1992, and he spent, I think he's probably spent $60 or $70 million, which if he in 2012 money, that'd probably be several hundred million or maybe a $500 million. And if I'd have spent that much on the campaign, I'd have won the election. And so I was a poor person trying to make a point.
I understand. Now, you're not retired yet, are you? Or would you say what's your status now? What's your next job?
Yeah, I do a few articles and keep up with some of the political issues, and then do a little law work, but only for immediate family. I don't do that for the general public. And that's about it. And and help my wife. She's fostering some dogs and cats, and that takes a lot of work, so I'm helping her do that.
Well, so we're not going to see you run for the next election or and everything else?
Probably not, but I'll never say never.
Okay.
I'll go down. I play the lottery every so often. If I were to win that and have a ton of money and not have to raise money, that was and another thing that needs to happen to change the political system in this country is term limits. The members of Congress, so many of them, and I was there, you're always worried about where the next fundraiser is going to be instead of worrying about what's good for the country. Mm-hmm. And it's a constant battle to raise money. Now, if you're Mark Warner, you don't have to worry about it. He's one of the richest. He's probably, I believe it's in roll call, said he's worth $389 million. Well, he doesn't have to worry about raising any money.
I thought you were around there. I thought you was around that time. I was about to hit you up for, a grant to start school. I was going to start a charter school. I said, I can get the money. Anyway,
he was in the top. He might have been the highest. He was certainly in the top 5. He just got a ton of money. I know when he ran against John Warner, nobody knew him, and this was in 1996. But he spent 12, 15 million of his own money, which was, and I may be off a little bit, but he just poured the money in and almost beat John Warner. And then when he ran for governor against Mark Earley, he just poured the money in and buried him. And then when he ran for U.S. Senate, I know he had this guy, I never will forget this, he had a guy putting up signs for him that would usually work for Republican candidates. And he said he got paid so much for Mark Warner, he just had to help Mark Warner put up signs. and that's it. If you got a ton of money like Mark Warner, you can just pour the money in, and it makes a big impact on elections. You can hire the best consultants, the people that'll do your Twitter for you, do your Facebook for you all the time, and just But if you had, I really favor term limits, and I think term limits would give you greater turnover in Washington, which would be good.
Okay, and keep some of the foolishness out.
Yeah, and it would, and the big money would have less influence on the process.
Well, Mr. Goode, I thank you so very much for taking the time out to help us out and educate us, and you definitely educated me, and I appreciate you so very much for your time, sir, taking out during the day. And please, while you're out hunting and everything else, be good. And if you see Cheney around, please go the other direction.
I will, and listen, good talking with you, Stephen. And if you come through Rocky Mount going down to Laurel Park or Henry County, give me a yell.
I shall do that, sir. I thank you very kindly, sir. And you have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.